Hello everyone, Awesome Andrew of Awesome Albums here with a short video to start off the new year. Unfortunately, it's not a happy video. At the end of every year, there are always people who are no longer with us. People who started the year with us and sometime throughout 365 days in the year met with their final day. And this is a video I like to call the Farewell Tour of 2016. A farewell tour, of course, is when an artist or a group wants to have one last tour as a way to say goodbye to other fans from over the years. This video is a reply to that, where the fans, or me, say farewell to the artist. This video is to highlight a few of those names that we lost in 2016 that meant a lot to a lot of people, or at the very least meant something to me. Unlike last year, I do want to mention a few other names that are in the entertainment industry, but not necessarily tied to music. But I still want to mention them nonetheless. First person I want to mention is Alan Rickman. Though I didn't grow up on Harry Potter, the influence the stories and movies had on everyone around me growing up makes him too significant to not mention. Doris Roberts, American actress who had major roles in Remington Steele, Christmas Vacation, and of course Everybody Loves Raymond, to name a few of her big ones. Alan Young, actor, voice actor, radio and television host who TV Guide called the Charlie Chaplin of television. A couple of his major roles is Wilbur from Mr. Ed and Scrooge McDuck in Disney films. And speaking of Disney films, Willis Pile is one of the few lucky people to see an entire century pass before he passed. He was an animator for Disney working on classics: Pinocchio in 1940, Fantasia in 1940, Bambi in 1942. He left Disney to join UPA, where he was a co-creator to Mr. Magoo and the short film Gerald McBoing-Boing in 1950. He certainly brought a lot of joy to so many children since the days that my grandparents were children. Muhammad Ali, American professional boxer and activist. We all know his famous quote, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." Gene Wilder, as far as actors that we lost, this one probably hit me more than any other. At least until the next name I mentioned. But he was an actor for a couple movies I've watched several times since I was little. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and Young Frankenstein. The name that did hit me the most of those we lost in 2016 is Carrie Fisher. She was a novelist and screenwriter and actress. Her biggest role, of course, was Princess Leia in Star Wars. And then the next day, her mother, Debbie Reynolds, passed away. People said she died of a broken heart after losing her daughter, although it was really a stroke. Reynolds was an actress and singer appearing in Singin' in the Rain and The Unsinkable Molly Brown. She was also Charlotte the Spider in the animated movie Charlotte's Web. So many other people that we lost, too many to mention from 2016, and it was probably one of the worst years when it came to losing musicians, or at least in my opinion. First I want to mention is, of course, David Bowie. English singer, songwriter, musician. Space Oddity, Fame, and Starman are a few of his big songs. The thing that made me feel at ease here is he knew that his time was coming and was able to make one last album, Black Star, as a way to cope with his cancer, released only 2 days before his passing. His final album is his only album to top the Billboard 200 in the US and remained #1 in the UK charts for 3 weeks. Dale Griffin, a British drummer for the band Mott the Hoople. Mott the Hoople is best known for the song All the Young Dudes, written for them by Bowie, and appeared on the album of the same name. I nearly broke down when I heard about the Eagles founder, Glenn Frey's passing. In fact, I had to wear this shirt in his honor. Being January, I just saw him in concert just 6 months earlier, and he seemed perfectly fine. What I didn't know was in the fall he had some intestinal surgery, and he just wasn't able to recover from it. Jimmy Bain, a Scottish bassist who performed with Rainbow and Dio, and even did a couple albums with Phil Lynott of Thin Lizzy, as well as playing bass on the song With Love on 1979's Black Rose. January 28th, 2016 was a sad day for Jefferson Airplane and their fans. Signe Anderson, the original female vocalist, passed away the same day as Paul Kantner. Anderson was only on Airplane's first album before having to leave because life on the road isn't good when you have a newborn baby. Grace Lick took over as the new female vocalist, singing alongside Marty Balin and Paul Kantner. After Airplane split up, Kantner continued on with half of Airplane to form Jefferson Starship. Kantner is also known as the co-writer to the Crosby, Stills and Nash song Wooden Ships, along with Stephen Stills. Little fun fact. Maurice White, American songwriter and musician and founder of Earth, Wind & Fire. Lenny Baker, American musician and singer of Sha Na Na. a group that had a 50s style of music and fashion yet in the 60s, and performed at Woodstock in 1969, playing as the second-to-last act before Jimi Hendrix closes out the legendary 3-day event. Sir George Martin. Where do I start with him? He was a British Hall of Fame record producer, composer, arranger, engineer, 6-time Grammy Award winner, and his biggest role was the record producer for the Beatles. In fact, he was often referred to as the fifth Beatle, even by Paul McCartney himself. Keith Emerson, such a talented keyboardist from the Nice and, of course, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. The thing that hurt the most about his passing, unlike most everybody else on my list of natural causes or illness, Emerson's case was suicide by gunshot. Frank Sinatra Jr., following in his father's footsteps, and became a singer and an actor. Dennis Davis was an American session drummer who did a lot with David Bowie and Stevie Wonder. Merle Haggard, an American singer, songwriter, guitarist, fiddler, and 3-time Grammy winner, 1984, 1998, and 1999. A few of his best-known songs were Okie from the Muskogee, The Fight Inside of Me, and Carolyn. Gib Gilbo, American Cajun country rock musician and songwriter. He was a member of Nashville West, Swamp Water, and the Flying Burrito Brothers. Gilbo helped pioneer the fusion of rock and country music in the 1960s. Prince, American musician and songwriter. He won an Oscar in 1984, as well as 2004 and 2007. One of his best songs, if not his best known, is, of course, Purple Rain. Nick Menza, German-born American drummer for thrash metal group Megadeth. Henry McCulloch, Northern Irish guitarist who had been in several groups, including Spooky Tooth, The Grease Band, and Wings. You might recognize his name from my Dark Side of the Moon Extras Part 2 video because he was one of the people who was interviewed on the album. Bernie Worrell, American musician and Hall of Fame inductee. He was an American musician for Parliament Funkadelic and was also a touring musician for the Talking Heads. Louis Steinberg, American Hall of Fame bassist for Booker T and the MGs. James Woolley, American keyboardist who used to be part of Nine Inch Nails. He was also a Grammy winner in 1993. Fred Hellerman, American folk singer for the Weavers. He was a guitarist, producer, and songwriter. The Weavers' style inspired the commercial folk boom that followed them in the 1950s and 60s, including performers as the Kingston Trio, Peter, Paul and Mary, the Rooftop Singers, and Bob Dylan. Eddie Harsh, Canadian keyboardist for the Black Crowes. Leon Russell, American Hall of Fame musician. His best-known song is Tightrope. Mose Allison. This name might sound familiar from December's Tommy Part 1 video. He was an American jazz pianist, singer, and songwriter. One of his best-known songs was Young Man Blues. Emerson, Lake and Palmer had a rough year, first losing Emerson, now losing singer and musician Greg Lake. Before joining ELP, he was also a founding member of King Crimson. I really hope Carl Palmer's doing alright. Bob Krasnow, American record label executive for Electrica Records, but he's also co-founder of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Mick Zane, American guitarist for Malice. Rick Parfitt, British singer, songwriter, and guitarist for Status Quo. George Michael, British singer and was also part of a duo called Wham, or Wham UK, since there was already another group called Wham in the US, with Andrew Ridgeley, and some of his well-known songs he wrote was Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go, Careless Whisper, and Last Christmas. He was a 2-time Grammy winner with I Knew You Were Waiting for Me and Faith. There are so many names, whether it was in the entertainment industry or the music industry, just too many to mention. What I did was just simply name the ones that meant something to me, and of course, highlighting the big names too. Naturally, I couldn't name everybody, but I don't want those people to be forgotten either. So one more final farewell to those we lost last year. You may be gone, but you won't be forgotten. You all have a legacy, whether if it's in movies or music, and on behalf of everyone in the world, thank you for your music. Thank you for your movies. And most importantly, thank you for the smiles that you've given all of us over the years. Thank you, and farewell.